Hey, welcome to the Gig Life Podcast. I'm your host, Stevie Taylor. My guest today is amazing drummer called Chris Allison. Chris plays drums for virtuoso guitarist Plini. He also plays in a band called Instrumental, which is an original act with his friends. He also plays in Seims, and he also plays in Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of a Tony Hawk Pro Skater cover band. That's right, that's the name of the band. You better listen up to that whole story. Big Tony Hawk fan I am, so it was cool to chat about that. Anyway, this is episode 138. Chris Allison, I think we're rolling. Chris Allison, how are you, man?
I'm good, thanks, Stevie. How are you, man?
Yeah, good, mate. Good to see you again.
And you too. Thanks for coming by.
Sweet as. And it was great to finally see you play. A few weeks ago, we had the Inner West Drum Fest.
Yeah, man.
So it was yourself and Gordo and
Tully and Holly.
I've been, following your career for a bit online.
Sure.
Been meaning to get to a show. I did see Plini play once, but you weren't playing in the band at that stage. I think Troy Wright was playing.
Yeah. I was probably at the same gig then.
It was at the Vanguard.
Okay, not at that one then.
Yeah. Well, it used to be called, the Vanguard used to be called something else. So it was Vanguard, then it became something else.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called either.
Yeah.
It changed. It's too many changes.
Yeah, but we went to see Heavy Metal Ninjas. Have you heard of Heavy Metal Ninjas?
We played with them when we were in New Zealand in, when was that, 2019.
Awesome.
Yeah. Was it at the Sando, the old Sando?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, I was
right.
at that gig then. There you go.
I apologise.
That was
the Vanguard.
The fun gig, that one. But no, those guys were awesome. Yeah, they're a good time as well.
Yeah, they sure are. Richie's a beast, man.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He certainly is. Yeah.
So he's now the sound guy for LAB. Have you heard of LAB?
I haven't. No.
Okay, it's a New Zealand sort of reggae band, and he also plays in New Zealand band called Cora.
Okay, I've heard of Cora.
Yeah. So he's sort of doing that now. He hasn't done the Ninjas thing for a while.
Yeah, well, maybe it was the last time we because that was just before COVID hit. Like,
was it? Yeah.
End of 2019, maybe October or something like that. So it could have been the last gig they've done up till now.
Yeah.
But no, good times.
But going back to the drum fest, like I said, great to see you play, and your performance was more of a masterclass instead of just you playing. Wasn't it? You played plenty tracks, and you played some of the other stuff that you've played on before, other bands. And I think the highlight of the day for me was you played something, and then you got on the microphone and you went, "So what did I just do there?" And that little boy up the front said, "You just played the drums." You remember that?
Yeah,
brought the house down.
Yeah, no, that was that couldn't have gone better. That wasn't a plant either. That was organic. That was actually Paul Derricott's daughter.
Was it really?
So the organizer's daughter, and I honestly, that was a very great answer. I literally couldn't have asked for anything better than that.
And you can't come back from that either.
No, exactly. No, she had my number, that's for sure. But no, that was my first time having to do anything like that in a kind of a public sphere. I'd done one masterclass previously a few years ago, but that was like part of a camp that I was teaching at, so it wasn't open to the public.
Right.
And it's a weird thing. I would still not 100% sure. Like, I had a really great time doing it, and but immediately got off and started thinking about how I could do it better next time if I were to do it again. And it was a weird thing to do. In
what way?
I don't.
You mean communicating?
Not so much communicating the ideas, although there was a little bit. I was hesitant to talk about some things in certain fashions just because I was actually surprised by how many kids were there.
Yeah.
And
so was I, to be honest. I thought there'd be a lot more of the of the older scene there, but there wasn't, was there?
Yeah, well, there was plenty of them there. I was just like, oh, okay. There's like, I think 40% kids there or something like that. It's like, okay, if I go too deep into some of this stuff, I'm going to bore the hell out of them.
Yeah.
And I'm not really interested in trying to do that because, so it's it was more about around that, like just trying to figure out how I can communicate ideas without, communicate some ideas which I guess are kind of nerdy in and of themselves, but try not to make them sound too nerdy and get too deep into it, so I don't bore everyone, like I said. But no, it was a nice challenge, and like I said, the next day I woke up with 6,000 ways that I'd do it better next time. But that'll have to wait until next time, if there is a next time.
Oh, I'm sure there will be. It was pretty successful, wasn't it? I think.
No, definitely. They Darrow and Pug did a great job putting that together, and I'd be surprised if there wasn't one happening next year, because it'll only keep getting bigger and better from that.
Yeah.
Off the success of the inaugural Inner West Drum Fest.
Yeah, and it was nice to have that kind of thing back again, because I think I may have already said this to someone on the podcast. Oh, anyway, I can't remember. But the last sort of drum event that I remember in Sydney was at Rosehill Gardens.
Okay.
Like it was a drummer's day. Who was there? Thomas Lang was there.
Yeah, right. I don't think I made it to that one. The last one I remember was it was one that Frank had put on, Frank Corniola.
Yep.
It was, whenever the last Ultimate Drummers weekend was on, I suppose. And it was Chris Coleman and Dave Ehrlich.
Oh, that was at the King's School. Was it? Up at the King's School?
That's right.
I didn't get there.
Yeah. That's the last one I remember. That was and that was a long time ago. That was maybe 2017.
Yeah.
Or 16 maybe. And I hadn't really heard of anything happening, anything like that since then. So, and that was what Paul's idea was as well, was to bring an event like that back to Sydney, obviously particularly after COVID as well, all being locked up and I guess even with a lot of the students, most of their classes were probably their drum lessons were probably through Zoom as well.
Yep.
So it's like, let's get them in a room and get excited about drums and Pug had a bunch of his cymbals and stuff there to try out, and there's not heaps of drum stores left in Sydney, so that was also another part of it. They were saying was to get them to be able to hear an instrument, in the flesh, because everything's so online these days. There's no drum stores really in the Inner West. I think the closest one is in Parramatta, right? So.
Drum Factory? Yeah, Drum Factory.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, he was just, it was kind of like bringing back a lot of that stuff, which was awesome, man. And everyone that was sat down at the kit, they were all super excited to jam away on all the cymbals and the beautiful kits that they had there too, that Steele had brought down as well. So, no, man, really, really happy to be a part of it, and really honoured to be part of it, to be honest. But lessons learned as well. So but it was great to. I don't know if I'd properly met Gordo before, so it was nice to just have a chat to him, and he was very, very lovely, and his set was unbelievable as well. Yeah, totally. No wonder that guy's the legend that he is. Because, good Lord, that was really amazing. And then Tully as well, and I'd not met Holly before either, and then seeing her do her thing was
great.
Was really, really cool. Very, very unique, and I felt very uncreative getting up after her, but that's just the nature of those things, I suppose.
I think you're underselling yourself there. You just got to remember that you created all those drum parts that you played. You may not have felt creative on the day, but
after going up after that, it was definitely no, she was awesome.
Yes. How did you choose the tracks that you played?
I just prepared a bunch of different songs and kind of felt it out on the day, to be honest.
Okay.
So I think I prepared maybe seven to 8 songs and maybe played 4 to 5 off the top of my head. And I basically chose them. to talk about more about the creative side, about coming up with some of the parts, how I did come up with them, and so a lot of them are like odd time based songs, so that's inevitable to have to talk about some of that stuff too, which I'm not usually. I don't really think about that side of it all that much, although I have a good understanding of it. I just don't try to think about it. But so there's a few songs that I had to talk about that stuff. So I would, like, there's one song that I played called The Glass Bead Game.
That song. Oh. Talk about a song with moments,
right?
And
sure.
events. That song's
magic,
yeah.
As I was just saying before we were rolling, that was one song that when I heard the demo for, I was kind of really just I think I messaged Plini straight away. I was like, I think you've hit it out of the park with this. Like, everything else he'd sent up to that point was amazing as well, but it's just like, man, this is epic. Like,
it was epic. That's a good word for it.
Yeah,
that word gets thrown around a lot, but
it feels apt. It feels apt for that song, definitely. So yeah, that song, it's all actually 15, the same tempo, but it's just the way that I break up the 15 to make it feel like it's slowing down or speeding up or whatever. But realistically, you could sit there with a click the whole song and it would match up perfectly throughout the whole thing. So that it's hard not to talk about something like that, I suppose. So yeah, that was basically how I chose them. And Paul had asked me to play an original that I'd written with a trio that I play in called Instrumental. Because Instrumental and Paul's band Coast had done a few gigs together.
Okay, gotcha.
And that is written very differently to how Plini's stuff was written, which I think I may have even mentioned on the day. But it's like when Plini sends me a song, or to any drummer that he sends a song, it's the composition is written in terms of the structure's not changing, more or less not changing. So the song itself is finished. The drum part is obviously going to change. But with this other band, we're in a room, we're writing old school, in a room together, throwing ideas at each other. So it was just kind of to highlight the difference, that you can do it both ways and it can work. One's not necessarily better than the other. They're just two different ways of working. So that was basically how I chose the songs, and ones that I thought were fun too. That's definitely, it's important to have fun. So that also went into it as well.
Good stuff. Yeah, it was cool to see you playing live, man. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you, man, and thanks for coming and checking it out. It was,
sweet as.
Again, like a privilege to be a part of it and an honour to be a part of it, and looking forward to attending next year's one.
Good stuff. So what's a day in the life of Chris Allison at the moment? I mean, I know we're coming up to Christmas. We're here in your drum space, and you teach. So does your teaching go right up till Christmas?
Yeah, more or less. So I teach privately, so it's whenever I kind of decide to pull the plug for the year, more or less. And it's dropping down there. Sorry.
You're right.
So I teach up. I can teach through if I want. I can take some time off. It's up to me basically. So I finish up on the 23rd, so on Friday. Before Christmas, and I might do a little bit in between New Year's, but probably not. But a day in the life of me at the moment, you probably don't know this, but I became a father.
I did know that.
You did know that? Okay,
Yep.
There you go. Okay. So I became a father in July. So
congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah. No, it's a great club to be part of.
Yeah.
Loving every minute of it. So that's actually taking up more time than the drumming at the minute, which is great. I'm happy, very ecstatic to be able to do that and have the time to do that.
So your partner's working?
No, not at the moment. No,
Okay.
no. She's So the little guy's 5 months old.
Yep.
At the moment. So. We just planned ahead for it all basically,
Good stuff.
and she's done a little bit of work, but she's a freelancer as well. So she's gone back for a little bit of work here and there, but nothing, very strict. So, man, to be honest, that's taking up most of my days. Like, I come in here to teach in the afternoons and evenings, and but other than that, I'm kind of just at home hanging out with the little man and just soaking in all that time and all the laughs and all the cries and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Particularly because at the beginning of next year, like, I'm going to be away a little bit.
A little bit.
Bit.
Most of the year. Looking at the tour schedule today.
Yeah, it's a busy first half of next year, so I'm really trying to make the most of the time I'm at home to be with him, and my partner as well, my partner Amy. That's pretty important, obviously. So, it's going to be a tough first half of the year, not just because of the touring, but because I'm away from them. So yeah, like I said, just trying to really soak in all that time and which has been awesome, man. Like, you know yourself what it's like to be a father, and it's like it's pretty amazing. So yeah, it's just a whole new world of not possibilities, but just a whole new world of looking at life and things like that. So it's been really awesome. So yeah, like I said, just soaking in a lot of that, and then coming in here to do some practice and a bit of teaching as well.
Yeah.
And gigging where I can as well. So
yep. How do you think, or if it's even happened at all, has having a baby affected your approach to music? Have you thought about that?
In terms of like,
I guess
what gigs I take, or in terms of like what creatively,
creatively, and what gigs you take. And see, what happened with me is, like, I never had a space to practice or do my music outside of home.
Yep.
So before I had kids, if I had an idea, I would go into my space and I would work on my idea until the idea was done.
Sure.
Right. If I was recording something, I'd do the recording and not have to worry. But having that, space at my house, and then I had kids, the biggest impact was the disruption and
Sure. No. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So I guess it would be a little bit different, having your space here where you're actually leaving your house to come here.
Yeah.
And I suppose if you're pushed for time, you can make the most of your time that you've got here, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Instead of just coming in here and just fucking around.
Right. Exactly. With things like that, like, to be honest, I haven't creatively not been doing a great deal, like, in terms of like thinking about new music. There's a few like session things that I've done.
Yep.
My approach hasn't really changed in terms of like how I've thought about that. It is just, I guess, condensed in terms of time. Like, I wouldn't, like you said, just come in here for like 9 hours and just hang out by myself, because that would be pretty unfair, and also just missing out on that time as well. So it's just prioritizing, like, there would have been a time where I would have come in every day. I'm not doing that at the moment. There'll be days where I have days off where I just take it and just hang out with the little man and my partner as well. So, it's just kind of prioritizing that stuff. And if I don't necessarily need to be in here, I might not come in. And it's just, the thing is just not feeling bad about doing that, in the past I would have probably stressed about it or just felt like I was losing, my skills or whatever. But that's just a weird thing you tell yourself. It's not actually true.
Isn't it?
Like you leave the kit for a week and it's like, not like, you're going to forget everything about the kit. You've spent, I spent 20 plus years playing. So it's just putting that kind of in perspective, I suppose. And in terms of gigs, like, it's how much do I want to be away from my partner, like my family, basically. So thankfully, the Plini gig is a pretty easy one. Like, we get along all really well. There's never any issues. and with this whole crew as well, not just with the band. So it's just like, that's a pretty easy yes to do that sort of stuff. And the opportunities are pretty amazing as well. Like getting to go to Europe or America is not something I ever thought I would do ever. It's one of those kind of pipe dream things that you just don't think, well, I'd given up on the idea of ever it being a real, something that I would ever do. And now I'm lucky enough to get to do that. So not taking that for granted as well, and realizing, okay, this isn't going to be forever. Like I'm probably not going to be doing this in, 20 years. Who knows? Maybe I will be, but, it is something I'm very grateful for. So, putting all that into perspective makes that pretty easy to say yes to. So that it's things like that, just weighing up, is this going to be worth my time to be away from my family?
Yep.
You often hear about people talking about like the three things a gig needs to have. It's like either is the money, the hang, or the music. If it's not meeting two of those three, maybe it's not worth your time. So things like that now make a bit more sense. Yeah. It made sense before, but it makes a lot more sense now that the little guy's around. And obviously, it's not just the fact that I'm away from him. It's also the impact that then has on Amy, my partner Amy. Our family are all up on the Central Coast, so it's not like someone can just pop around in 10 minutes and help us look after the little guy. So it's an added stress on her life for me to go away. So it's like, it's obviously a conversation I need to have with her, and she's very supportive still. She's very supportive. But it is that thing where...
Has she given you a timeline before the support drops? No, I'm kidding.
No, not yet, but it's on the cards probably. No, she's been very supportive from day one of me doing this. It is an evolving conversation. If it does become untenable, then, that's just, we'll have to figure out what happens from there. But at the moment, we made it work. Like I've been away once so far. I was away for 3 weeks, and it wasn't easy for her by any stretch. And like my folks were away at that time as well, so we couldn't even count on them to help out at all. And and we can't just put it all on her mum and her dad and stepmom. So that was tough, but we got through it, and she managed, and so it's working so far. So, but it is an evolving conversation. So, that's the other side of music that often isn't talked about. Is how do you make a relationship work, and honestly, that's probably more important in a lot of ways, and that's the way I treat it anyway. It's like, if she's not happy, then okay, I need to spend the rest of my life with her. So, I'd like to, so it's making sure that is the priority. I can always find something else to do to make money if I need to. If I can't do drums anymore, I can't do music, I'll survive somehow. We all do. So, so that's the priority with that. I think I answered that question.
You did. I'm glad you did get it to a point of an answer, because when I started asking the question, I was going all over the place. So
you and me both, I think. Yeah. Sorry, listeners.
No, all good. All right, let's roll it right back, man. So you're originally from, you were born in Wagga?
Correct.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about your days in Wagga, and is your mum and dad musical?
My old man and his whole side of the family extremely musical.
Okay.
My mother's side of the family not at all.
Same as my.
Okay,
family.
there
Exactly
you go.
The same.
There you go. So my old man was a bass player and a sound engineer, both live and in the studio as well, down there. And my uncle, his brother, is a guitar player, and he runs a music store down there called Allison Music. and he is basically the guy down there. Like he does all the gig, like heaps of gigs down there, and they were like the gruesome twosome in the 70s and 80s and early 90s down there. So they would do all the shows, like all the musicals that come through town. They did all the function bands and all that sort of stuff down there. They had a Blues Brothers tribute band. They had their own original kind of pub rock kind of thing going on. So they were, playing all the time. So I grew up with that, basically. He was also working as in the plumbing industry, so not as a plumber, but in the industry, so like selling toilets to simplify it, I guess. So he would do both of those things. They'd go out, get home at 3 a.m. and then wake up at 7 and be at the office by whatever time, So yeah, I grew up with that around me, and I love music from an early age, mainly thanks to there being music around the house. Like there's pictures of me, like as a little kid playing they would rehearse at the house.
Yeah.
So there was a drum kit, and then there's a picture of me, like my hands above my head, standing up behind the kit trying to play it. And I oddly didn't start playing drums till much later. But yeah, I was constantly surrounded by music. So I, started playing piano and guitar, and tried my hand at guitar. Didn't work out so well. But constantly around music. And we left Wagga when I was about 11 or so, and moved up to the Central Coast. So my old man gave up music at that point.
Okay.
Because he got offered this job up on the coast, in the same industry, so in the plumbing industry, and so we moved up here for that, and he kind of, for lack of a better term, he gave up music to give us a better opportunity to come up to the coast, and it was a good work opportunity for him too. So it made sense. So I've been trying over the last couple of years to really get him to pick up bass again, because he was a great bass player. He'll tell you otherwise, but he was a great bass player. So I'm just trying to encourage him to pick it up again. Not bearing fruit at the moment, but it won't stop me from trying.
Yeah. Write a song and tell them you need a bass player. And all my friends are booked out.
Yeah, I've
down, Dad.
I've recorded stuff in here to get him to like record stuff over, like just like covers and stuff like that, like some Steely Dan songs. They haven't yet. The fruit hasn't. What's the word I'm looking for here? I'm talking. I
was singing "Falling Off the Tree," but
let's go with that. That works. That metaphor works. The fruit hasn't fallen off the tree just yet, but like I said, I'll keep going with that. And but yeah, my uncle still plays down there all the time. So my grandfather, who I never got to meet because he passed away before I was born, but he was a drummer as well. So my dad's. My grandmother, she was a lap steel player and an organ player as well, so always music around, and they really encouraged my uncle and my dad to play as well. So yeah, they were getting Led Zeppelin records when they were 12 years old and stuff like that, and learning all that. And apparently my uncle would get home from school and just sit there and learn all the riffs from all the Black Sabbath records and stuff like that, and just sit there until dinner time, just rewind. Like apparently you'd hear the sound of the record hit and play, stop, hear the needle scratching backwards, play again, and just until he got it. So so always surrounded by music, and that didn't really stop even though Dad stopped playing. There was always music around the house, and when we'd go visit, there was always CDs in the car that we'd be listening to and stuff like that. So always surrounded by music, and I always had a affinity for music as a young kid because of that, I suppose. Like probably my earliest memory, funnily enough, is waking up at what I thought was dawn when I was maybe 3, and then going on and going down to the TV and turning on Rage, and then the memory I have is my parents coming down and going, "Chris, what are you doing?" was like, oh, I'm watching Rage. And they're like, it's 3:00 in the morning. And I was like, what? And then they picked me up and took me to the window, and lo and behold, it's dark outside.
Yeah, right.
And they're like, it's too early for this, but I wanted to watch Rage. So, that's what so I was, watching Rage at a young age, and, watched that all through up to being a teenager and beyond,
Right.
So music's always been around, and it's, just one of those things, I guess. Yeah.
How far did you get with your piano playing?
Not very far. Again,
Okay.
no. I probably had lessons for maybe 2 to 3 years, and
Decent. That's decent, though. That's
but I didn't practice, so
Okay.
that doesn't help.
so you go back to your next lesson to practice what you just done in your first lesson. Right?
Yeah, more or less.
Right.
Yeah, I was one of those students.
Teacher's getting paid; he doesn't care anymore.
Yeah, well, it was a family. It was oddly enough like a family friend. Like the I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but they were an older couple, and they'd given Dad his first few gigs.
Oh wow!
So it was kind of like this big kind of like circle of life in a certain way. So
Yep.
they weren't very strict on me, I guess, but yeah, I didn't get very far with it, and I was pretty young too. Like I think I was maybe 10 or so. It's really not that young, to be honest, now that I think about it. But that's an excuse I tell myself. But I really wish I had have retained any of that knowledge and kept up with it, to be honest. But such is life. I realistically, I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to be able to play "Are You Gonna Go My Way" by Lenny Kravitz. I remember walking into rehearsal, that was my favorite song at the time, and my uncle could play it, and my mind was blown away. I was just like, what? I wanted to be able to do that, but then I started getting guitar lessons, and I was just learning how to play a G chord, and it's like, this isn't Lenny Kravitz. What? I couldn't see you got to start here to get to here.
Right.
It was just like I just wanted to play that, and
Right.
so I didn't stick with guitar very long either. But that's probably for the best because I was pretty bad. But again, didn't practice, so
Yeah, that's the thing.
yeah. Apparently that helps.
Right.
You get better at something if you practice it.
So you've moved up to the Central Coast, and you said you were about before we were rolling. You said you were about 11 or something.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what was it that interested you in to start wanting to play drums? Then, what did you see? Was it a band? Did you hear something?
Yeah. So I kind of there was a few songs on the radio at the time that I really there was parts that the drums were playing that I was always drawn to. This was before I even kind of expressed interest to my parents about playing drums, but there's a song by The Living End called All Torn Down. There's that one little I guess it's like a triplet break in the middle. Cat do cat do. I think there's a key change after it or something like that. You'd all know it if you know the song, but I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever heard. And I must have been about 12 or so. And then I was listening to I just heard Metallica for the first time because that was around when Reload had come out.
Okay.
And I loved that.
So that was 95.
No, that was 97. 97.
Oh,
Load was, I think, 95 or 96.
Reload. Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry,
Reload.
sorry.
No, that's fine. I heard Fuel on the radio, and it kind of blew my mind. So I became a very fast fan of Metallica.
Right.
And so a lot of Lars stuff just started to, I'd hear him doing his Larsisms, and it sounded cool to me. So I wanted to start doing that, but I hadn't really expressed interest in it. So to actually answer your question, we had an assignment that we had to do for music at school. And it was just basically, the assignment was pick a song and you're going to learn to play a basic beat over the top of it. So I was like, oh, cool. This is going to be awesome. And I figured out that I could practice playing the drums on my lap, just in my bedroom without a drum kit. So I picked a song. It was a Joe Satriani song because my old man was listening to a Joe Satriani record, so I was like, this is cool, I'm going to play this. And it was just a basic, like rock groove, but then I figured out straight away that I could do it just on my lap. Like I figured out the sounds and I could tell the sounds apart for some reason. I don't know how I could do that, but I guess I had that natural ability, and then it was really easy. Like I found it, it felt easy at the time. It was probably bad, but at the time I was like, oh yeah, but it was also that rush of like, I can do this. Oh my God. Like I need to keep doing this. So did the assignment at school, and then I just basically ran home and started pestering my folks to start getting lessons and get a kit and all that sort of stuff. And they were really supportive. Like, it helped that my old man was a muso, and so he understood. And that Christmas there was a kit for me, and it was just like going hell for leather from that point onwards. And so that's what got me started. It was actually a school assignment, which is probably the only school assignment I ever actually did properly. But that's another thing in itself, I guess. But
yeah. What was the Satriani song?
I can't remember the name of it, but it was on the Crystal Planet record, which had just come out around that time. I think it was the second track, and it's kind of a shuffle thing, I think, from recollection. But I obviously was not playing the shuffle. I was just playing the straight eighth notes. It was like a halftime shuffle. Sorry. But yeah, and I really liked the song. I liked that record at the time. I probably still would like it now. I haven't listened to it in a long time, but I could probably tell you everything about that record if I heard it now. It's one of those records that you listen to so much that just it's in it's in your conscious whether you know it or not.
You recognise any of those?
Yeah, it could be House Full of Bullets.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah, it's not a shuffle, so I clearly can't remember it, but I know it's a triple feel.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so and I think I even got in that extra kick drum. I was able to put that in, so I was like, oh, okay, cool. I understood how I could do that with, so I thought I was pretty good. So the fire was lit at that point,
That's cool.
after playing that song at school. And again, it was probably really bad, but I think I could kind of keep time okay, and it was just too much fun. So, that's something that I always talk about with people, like always keep in the back of your mind, like why you started playing this instrument, because it's fun.
That's it.
And music in general, it doesn't have to be just the drums, but any instrument is like, if you can remember that it's meant to be fun, you'll stick with it longer and you'll enjoy it, rather than getting bogged down in, taking it too seriously.
That's it, eh?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So from getting that new drum kit, were there some local teachers that you went to or through the school or?
Yeah, so I started getting lessons with a guy whose name I can't recall, but he was a guitar player that could just play some drums, and he was in Avoca, which was just around the corner. So I was in Erina. So I went to him for about maybe a bit less than a year, and then it just got to the point where he was like, oh, dude, I can't show you anymore. You've kind of maxed out what I can show you. And at that time, we'd started jamming together. Like he would just be like, here's a blues, play a shuffle.
Yep.
And so I would do that, and then he was kind of, okay, well, I've got nothing else to show you. So then the hunt began for a new teacher, and then I started getting lessons from a guy called Adam Toole, who was a local guy up there, and he had toured a bit through Europe with his original band and stuff like that. So that was very cool, and he kind of looked a little bit like Dave Grohl, so I was like, oh, that's kind of cool too. And he was a bit more, well, he was a drummer, so like he knew a bit more what to actually show me in a certain sense. So yeah, we kind of went through some rudiments a little bit, but I didn't, if I could be honest, I didn't really pay attention to those because I was like, I can do single strokes. Who needs any of this other stuff? And all I wanted to do at the time was just play as fast as I possibly could. Like I was listening to a lot of like skate punk and stuff like that. So Blink-182, that type of stuff. So it was just like, I don't need doubles for that. All I need is single strokes and play fast and loud. So, but he kind of opened my eyes to, some other stuff. And, and I had lessons with him for maybe a year and a little bit. And then he got a job maybe for the ABC or something. So I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And then I taught myself up until the end of high school, basically. So I would just listen to records and try and cop what I was hearing, and that was it. So I didn't have any books. I couldn't read music.
Yes, okay, so it was still all
ear. It was all
ear
ear,
at the stage.
Yeah. So I couldn't read a lick of music. So I was just, learning, like I said, like a lot of skate punk stuff, like, No Effects and strung out bands of that kind of ilk, and a little bit of like Metallica as well, obviously. And then I heard Dream Theater when I was maybe 15 or 16, and that kind of was a big eye-opener for me, because there was a bunch of odd times and stuff like that. So I had to figure out what the hell was going on and all that sort of stuff. So I just sit there and work out, okay, this is in 7, and I somehow understood that it was in 7. I guess I read forums or something like that to figure out what 7/8 actually was or whatnot. So I would just listen to those songs over and over until I could remember them, and then just play them. And that was basically my education through the rest of high school, was just me listening to those records and whatever else I was listening into, and just trying to figure out what the hell was going on with the drums and do my best to try and play it.
Right. Were any of your friends into that Dream Theater type stuff as well?
No. I heard Dream Theater because my old man came back from a work trip, and he had heard a Dream Theater song in a taxi or something like that. And the song was Take the Time, which is off, I think, maybe their first record. And it's got this one riff in it. And he was like, oh my God, this kind of sounds like Toto, like something like Toto would play. Sounds like almost like Lukather. What the hell is this? And the taxi driver told him it's Dream Theater. So he went out and bought like a DVD or something and came back and was like, check this out. And put it on, and I was just like, whoa, what the hell is this? And so he got me into them, and none of my friends cared for Dream Theater, and fair enough too. I don't listen to heaps of I don't listen to any Dream Theater nowadays, but they definitely played a vital role in kind of, they were like a big gateway band. That's the way I kind of think about them, into, figuring out Portnoy stuff for me opened my eyes to guys like Vinny and Weckl and stuff like that, because I'd heard of Vinny and Weckl, up to this point, but I'd listen to something or watch something, and it just went over my head. Like I had no idea what I was listening to. I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Give me some single stroke rolls fast around the drums like Travis Barker or something that I can understand. Yeah. But then the Portnoy thing came about, and it was attainable enough that I could understand what was going on. But then I started hearing some of that stuff when I would eventually go back to check out Vinny and Virgil and guys like that, because what led me to do that was the fact that I figured out how to play like all the Dream Theater songs, and I was like 17 years old, and I remember I played this one piece called The Dance of Eternity, which
another one.
You know it, right? So it's a million times, just all this dumb stuff going on, it, right? So I played it, and I could remember it all note for note. Like I could almost play it to you if there was no record playing, and I could just remember the whole thing. And I was like, I thought Portnoy was the best drummer on the planet. And I was like, man, I can play all his stuff. that means I'm the best drummer on the planet.
Good on you.
And then I kind of looked around to my surroundings. I was like, no, I'm in like my garage. No one knows who I am. This can't be right. So there was, I guess some sort of self-awareness there. And so I was like, okay, what's the next step? And that was finding out about like Virgil and Vinny and the heavier kind of guys, and kind of opening my ears to that type of stuff. So, but without, the Dream Theater influence, I may not have ever understood that stuff.
Right.
Or had any interest to check it out in any sort of serious kind of way. So I always credit them with doing that, even if I don't listen to them anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the first Vinny thing you heard was?
It was probably an MP3 off Drummer World, to be honest with you. I would have heard like some of the Sting stuff, but I wouldn't have known that it was Vinny.
Okay.
Or anything like that at the time.
I saw a video of you playing 7 Days. But
right.
but your take of it, I was watching that today.
Yeah, that's
pretty cool.
That was just a silly thing that I'd seen Aaron Sterling doing some of those videos where he would play like Back in Black, but everything was pushed back a 16th note.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, and then I thought of 7 Days, but playing it in 7, even though it's in 5. That's funny on a very, very small, in a very small way, but I'll try and do it. But yeah, so I think the first thing I probably heard of Vinny that I listened to a whole record of was Joe's Garage, because Portnoy had talked about that record particularly as like his favorite Vinny record. So I was like, okay, let's check that out. And Joe's Garage by Frank Zappa, very odd record, but the drumming on that is disgraceful. And he's like 22 or something like that. He's like quite young when he did that record, I believe. And he's just playing unbelievably, as you would expect, but it's a very young Vinny, but still sounding amazing and playing all this absolutely ridiculous stuff. So that I kind of understood that at that point.
Yep.
There was still a lot I didn't understand, but that was probably the first Vinny record that I totally listened to.
Have you heard Gino Vanelli's Nightwalker?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Well, that was my Vinny.
Oh, nice.
That was my Vinny introduction.
Nice.
A friend of mine gave me the cassette tape to take home and listen to it. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've heard some stories about that session where
because he was on a break from Zappa, I think. He'd taken a bit of a break, or
he just left, or something like that.
Or came off tour, and then
yeah, that's right. Yeah, they went into the studio to do that, and apparently he was playing quite reserved to begin with, because it's like, this is like an R&B gig. This is not Zappa.
Yeah,
I got to kind of tame it back. But the story that I heard, Vinny, it was in like a bootleg clinic or something. He was like, "Oh, Gino just loved it when I would chop out."
Yeah.
And he just encouraged me to just keep going, like going further and further out. So if anyone hasn't heard that record, I definitely recommend checking that out.
Because track number 2.
Yeah.
Seeking You Will Find.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, that is a banger of a tune. And yeah, he just plays his ass off on that whole record.
Yeah,
and,
he's awesome. Even the ballads.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's kind of outrageous how
you'd lose your job if you played like that.
Yeah,
these days, eh?
But again, like that's what Gino wanted, man.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, man, he's doing the job that was prescribed, even though it kind of, you might think that would go against better judgment on any other day.
Yeah,
man, he's doing what he's paid to do. So, but yeah, man, that's an unbelievable record. Yep. That was a pretty. He was doing a lot of really creative stuff like that at that period, which I still really love to listen to. Yeah.
Cool. So when did the reading start? How did you get into reading?
That's when I went to AIM out of high school.
Okay. Well, what have we missed before that? Were you playing in any bands with your friends? Were you just still doing the Dream Theater type stuff at home?
Through high school, like I played in like just some. A couple of bands, just like high school bands.
Okay.
We'd play some covers and write some original tunes. It was all mainly like punk rock kind of stuff.
Yep.
Nothing too serious or anything like that. We thought we were pretty cool, but we probably weren't. But I guess that's any teenager, right?
No. Oh, we thought we were fucking cool.
Well,
We were cool.
you were cool. I'll believe that, but yeah, I definitely wasn't anyway. But so yeah, I did a lot of that all through high school, and then so I went straight to AIM out of high school, and so I would commute down from the coast, and do that. Did that for 2.5 years. So reading kicked in there. So Dave Plini, I was studying with Dave there, and he kind of kicked my ass into gear and was like, okay, yeah, you've got a lot of the playing stuff is kind of cool. Like there's obviously a lot of work to do there, but your biggest weakness is the fact that I was like illiterate reading and stuff like that. So he, put syncopation in front of me and kind of just kicked my ass with that, which is great. And then I slowly started to pick it up from there. Like I'm not a great reader now by any stretch. I can kind of get by if I need to, but I generally don't need to. So I don't, it's not something I practice as much as I probably should, but again, it's not something I need to do. So it's a weird thing, right?
Yep.
But it's a skill that I'd love to have to be better at, but maybe one day.
So what opportunities came from AIM? What other musicians were at AIM that, sorry. So while you're at AIM, let me backtrack that.
You're right. Is that not on the soundboard?
No, I'm winging it at the moment. These are just no. Just
I meant the sound effects.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, we got a laugh track.
Oh, hang on.
There you go. That'll do. It's close enough.
Fuck. So when you're at AIM, did you meet some musicians that would, take you on to play in their bands or introduce you to other musicians? Yeah,
there was definitely a lot of musos that you would probably know that I was studying with, like even like drummers like Andy Horvath. I don't know if you know him, or Pat Madden. That was some of the guys that were like around at the time. But yeah, like I studied with like Lisa Caruso. She's a brilliant singer-songwriter as well, locally. And Caleb Jacobs is another, he's like doing like a lot of soundtrack stuff at the moment. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there was a lot of people I studied with that are still kind of playing around and doing some stuff. But I probably didn't have the best attitude in terms of putting myself out there when I was at AIM. Like I was maybe a little bit, maybe not shy is not the right word, but I'm not really like the hustle kind of guy where I'm like out there going, hey man, you need to book me on your gig.
Yep.
Which is
kind of a cool thing, actually. I like that.
Yeah, it's good and it's bad. It's one of those kind of double-edged sword things where it's like I just don't feel comfortable doing that. It's just not in my kind of personality to kind of do that. So other opportunities came on because I was still living on the coast when I'd finished. So I stayed up there a couple of years after that, and some stuff happened just through just being around town, playing up there and doing different things on the coast. But in terms of Sydney, like nothing really came out of it too much. Like there was a few like, pub gigs and stuff like that, just covers and function stuff that would pop up occasionally, but nothing too kind of serious, I suppose. But that's more from my lack of hustle, more than anything else. Like I would have done it had I been asked, but I was too maybe shy or meek or whatever to kind of put myself out there in that kind of way.
Mm. So you just spoke of some things that started to happen up the coast for you. So what were some of those things?
Oh, it was just whatever was kind of thrown at me. Like I started playing in like an African drumming kind of thing where I was like, so it was all percussion based. I was the only kit player, and then everyone was on like djembes and doumbeks and things like that. And so it was kind of an interesting way to, it's not your standard kind of music. Like it's all rhythm based and some pretty weird rhythms thrown at me, which is kind of cool. So I did that for, a year or so. I played in like a Santana tribute band and stuff like that. So again, just whatever's thrown at me. And then there was original stuff. I was playing in heaps of original bands. So like some more heavy, metal related kind of things, or punk stuff as well. There was like a period there where I remember every day I had a rehearsal or something like that. It was like, for 6 months, it was like 6 days a week I was rehearsing with bands, and then gigs and stuff like all different things.
That's
and
cool.
So it was like I was just putting myself in whatever situation I kind of was asked to be in realistically. And it's one of those things where one person finds out you're okay at the drums, and then they tell their mate, and it's like, oh, we need a drummer. Oh, let's just get that guy. And it just kind of kept going, snowballed into. It was out of control by the end of it. It was definitely too much, but that's, I guess, maybe a good problem to have in a certain way. But so yeah, it was just a lot of stuff like that. So kind of whatever was thrown at me, and then just originals in between that. And then I started playing with this band that were like I guess like a pop rock kind of punky kind of band called Angela's Dish. They had like some radio success around the place, so I knew them. I went to high school with the bass player. He was a couple of years above me, but we kind of knew each other just through our high school bands, and then I met the other guys through him as well. So yeah, they were looking for a drummer, and then I just ran into one of them one day at like the shopping mall or something like that. I ran into Josh there, that's right, and he was like, "Hey man, like, what are you doing? Do you like want to like come play drums for us or something? Some audition, maybe I auditioned, I can't remember exactly, but they just started like doing big tours with like they supported My Chemical. 30 Seconds. No, wait. What's Jared Leto's band called? 30 Seconds to Mars or something like that. Mars. Something to do with Mars.
30 Seconds to Mars, they're the Blacktown kids, aren't they?
No, that's 30 Seconds of Summer. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're right then.
Yeah. So Jared, 30 Seconds to Mars, I think, is Jared Leto's band. Anyway, so like they just done that, and they played with Jimmy Eat World and a bunch of these like kind of big bands. So I was like, oh, cool. I've not done that before. Let's do that. Let's, do a bit of that. And so I played with them for a few years, and did some cool things with those guys. Like got to, tour around a bunch, and we went to the States to do to record, which just came out about 11 years later, to like 2 weeks ago or something.
What was that? What was the?
That was with Angela's Dish.
Yeah, okay. I listened to that.
Okay, yeah.
When you put it up on your Facebook, I
sure
went to Spotify and checked it out.
Yeah. So that we did that in the end of 2011. So
cool,
that was.
Man.
It just took forever to come out. So when we got back from that, everything kind of, it's a very long story, but there's a bunch of management issues and all this. The industry then gets in the way, and that stops the fun part of it.
Yeah,
and it basically halted that band. But anyway, we put it out eventually, so that's good. I've been telling him to do it for about 11 years, but we got there in the end, so that's the main thing. So and that opened me up to a whole new side of music that I hadn't seen, like in terms of industry, like even being involved in industry and talking to labels and stuff like that, and understanding anything about touring more or less properly, rather than just jumping in a van and kind of booking everything yourself, which is what I've been doing. They had a booking agent and stuff like that. It was like, okay, wow, this is a whole new side of the industry. I like I said, I wasn't familiar with it all, so there's a bit of a learning curve. But it was great.
Yeah. So once that thing fell over, or
yeah.
Yeah. What was next?
I was playing like a bunch of blues music, like most weekends, so that was keeping me pretty preoccupied, like just up and down the coast. So you go up to like Port Macquarie, we go down the South Coast a few times as well. A lot of stuff on the Central Coast, some stuff in Sydney too. So that I did that for a fair while. And then what else? And then just some like corporate stuff in the city, So yeah, that was kind of just that kind of circuit, I suppose, weddings and that type of thing. That just filled in a good couple of years there.
Yep.
Once I moved to Sydney. So I moved to Sydney in 2011, so around the same time that the Dish thing kind of fell over after the US experience.
Had you moved here, like you're saying, while that was kind of happening, had you moved to Sydney for the Dish sort of band? Or
no, they were all on the
after?
coast. So
Okay.
I was always going to move to Sydney.
Okay.
That was always my plan. I just probably stayed on the coast longer than I should have
Right.
in the end. But so I moved to Sydney. That was still happening. So I would just go back and forth, commute for that when I needed to. And then, so I'd been in Sydney maybe 3 months, and then we went to the US. Roughly 3 months, maybe a bit more.
Okay.
I went to the US for a couple of weeks to record that stuff, and then came back, and then it all kind of just fell over from there.
over, okay.
Yeah. But in between that, I was still doing some of the blues stuff and other stuff.
Right.
But a lot more like, less original music was happening at that point.
Okay.
I would say, like, more just that covers and whatever was thrown at me in that kind of realm. That was a good 3 or 4 years, I guess.
Okay. So what was the main reason to move to Sydney? To find different
Work. There's more gigs down here. Like,
Yep.
I knew that if I was going to have any sort of stab at being a full-time musician, like I was going to have to do it at some point.
Yep.
So so that, like I said, it was always something I was going to do, but I just put it off for too long for whatever reason. I just don't think I was probably also, it was mainly because I just wasn't ready, I guess.
Okay.
I just didn't feel like I was capable of doing it or something like that. I haven't fully psychoanalyzed it yet, but it was just something that was just holding me back. And I think I like the comfort of being around friends and family that I knew, or particularly friends, and then they still started going, out into the world and doing their own thing as well. So I kind of saw that and went, oh shit, I think I should do that too.
Right.
And that was kind of the impetus to do it. So I moved down with my partner in 2011. So I've been down here ever since.
Right. So did you come down and sort of wing it, or did you have an idea?
I wung.
You completely wung it.
Wung it. If
So
wung is a word.
So you hustled.
No, I didn't. No, that was the problem.
Okay.
So I was just doing enough gigs to kind of get by for a little while, but then eventually I ended up in like a part-time office job.
Okay.
So I did that for maybe 2.5, 3 years.
Soul destroying.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like
Photos of Mike Portnoy on you.
no, not at that point. No, that was probably like a low point. If I was just not happy at all, but I just stuck with it because it was safe and I was getting a steady paycheck, which always helps. And living in Sydney is not cheap, so it's like that safety net was kind of good. And I'd saved up some money, in the lead up to coming to Sydney, so I gave myself like a buffer period of however long. But it just got to that point where I was like, okay, I can't really just wing it off this money, and I'm not making enough money off gigs to live any other way. So I did that for, like I said, maybe 2.5 years, 3 years maybe. And then a good friend of mine, Simon Grove, who I met on the Central Coast, he was teaching at a place in Turramurra, and he was like looking for a drum teacher. Hey man, do you want to do this? It's 3 days work or whatever. And I was like, I'm better off doing 3 days work teaching drums than I am, in this office here, hating myself for being in an office. So I went and did that, and then it all became about music again, and it kind of rejuvenated a lot there was a few other things that I did around that time to kind of rejuvenate it, because I had kind of contemplated giving up music during that kind of time, just because nothing was kind of happening in ways that I wanted it to, and I wasn't, again, because the anti-hustle in me was not helping that fact, right? So I was looking at other avenues that I could kind of make a living as a career, because I knew I didn't want to be in an office. So it was like, what else could I do? Started looking at options, and then around that time I started thinking, oh, look, what is it? Why am I not enjoying music? And, the whole collapse of the Dish thing had contributed to my not enjoying it, because it was just not. It was an ugly scene to kind of be around, like not with the guys, but just with the label and all that sort of stuff. It was just bad, and then it was just all the cover stuff and that it just kind of got to me. I realized I wasn't playing enough original music, so I then started playing more original music again, and then all of a sudden I found myself enjoying music. And that was, around the time when I started playing with Seims, who I still do a lot of stuff for, play with now. That's where that kind of came out. It was around the same time. And then I ended up being in like 4 or 5 original bands again. Not making all that much money, or any money probably, but I was enjoying music again. Yeah. And that was kind of like eye-opening. And then this teaching thing came about. So I was like, oh my God, now I'm making money off music again. Oh, fantastic. And it all kind of just went north from there, I guess. Like it was all a steady rise from there to where we are today. And, I had a few other friends, like a good buddy of mine, Simon Dawes, was always in my ear saying, you got to start teaching, man. You should do that. And I was like, yeah, because I taught on the coast. And when I came to Sydney, I was kind of like, I was burnt out of teaching a little bit. So I didn't do it. So he was always encouraging me to get back into it. But I always kind of just like, I'm safe. Why would I jump out of this thing? And then that opportunity came about. I was like, okay, I have to do this. If I'm going to give it an honest shot, I need to do this. So I took that teaching gig, and like I said, that led to everything else basically.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this episode of the podcast. As you know, the Gig Life podcast is free. You don't have to pay anything ever. But if you find the value in the Gig Life podcast, you can donate or leave a tip. Go to thegiglifepodcast.com, click on that donate button, and give as little or as much as you like, and just know that anything you give will go back into creating great content for this podcast. All right, back to the episode. So, tell us a little bit more about the Seims thing.
Yeah, so that's it's similar to Plini in that it's essentially a solo artist, for lack of a better term, and he employs me to play drums, and the band around him. Yep. And it's also similar to Plini in that he basically lets me do whatever I want. So which is great, because I can be as stupid as I want with my drum parts and make them super complicated if I really want to, or really simple if I want to. Obviously within reason of it being hopefully musical. But it's like a math rock thing. So it's a lot noisier than...
Math rock? I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. So it's like I don't know where it comes from. I don't listen to heaps of math rock myself, but bands like Battles were like a big thing. They really kind of helped birth, I guess, that type of music maybe.
Why is it called math rock?
I never totally worked that out,
because
but
it's complicated.
There's odd times through
music.
It all, and it's not like it's different to like the music that Plini plays.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of numbers going on and changing meters and stuff like that. Right. So I guess that's where it comes from.
Gotcha.
But like a band, like if I were to tell you to listen to math rock,
yep.
A good introductory band is Battles, and they were really great band. I think they're still playing. But they put out this record Mirrored in about maybe 2008, and that was when I first became exposed to it.
Okay.
To the term math rock. I'd heard of math metal and stuff like that, but math rock was something that had definitely eluded me, and it's instrumental for the most part as well.
Yep.
And so it was when I first joined, it was me on drums, Sim on bass, and he would play like some keys and stuff like that as well. Sam Schumack on guitar, and then Paul Murchison playing trumpet and synths as well. So it was like a very weird kind of lineup in terms of instrumentation, but it worked out to be a lot, it works in the context of just being loud and kind of mixing a lot of genres together as well. And it's just super fun to play. So I've been playing in that band now since maybe 2014 or 15 or something like that.
And there's a few albums.
So we put out 4, which is the 4th record, as you may imagine.
Math. It's math.
There's some math for you. Yeah. Man, we're geniuses, I tell you. Yeah. So there's 4 records, and I play on the last 2, so 3 and 4. The first 2, I think he played drums on it, or he programmed it. I think he played it. So that last record came out last year, maybe this time last year.
Yep.
And he went over to the UK this year and did some shows at over there at a big festival called Arctangent, which is like the festival for math rock, basically.
Okay.
I wasn't able to go because it was just after the little guy was born, so I was I couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Not unfortunate. It was unfortunate I couldn't make it, but it was for the best reason possible.
Yes. For the only reason that'll keep you in the band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But no, so he's been a big kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like cheerleader of mine, I suppose.
Yeah, cool.
So he also plays in the Tony Hawk tribute band thing that I do. So that was his idea. So he got me involved in that too, and we've done a few other bits and pieces around the joint as well. But he's been a big cheerleader of mine since he asked me to join his band, which has been great. And so we've been playing together now for. Has it been 8 years? That can't be right. It must be. Yeah, time. So that's a lot of fun, and he's got some big things planned for next year as well, which unfortunately I won't be able to be involved in just because of scheduling clashes, but he'll be going over to Belgium and going back to the UK and stuff like that. So, that's really super exciting, and I'm glad that he's getting to do that type of stuff because I enjoy playing that stuff. So it's good that it gets exposed to the wider masses and stuff like that. So really stoked that he's getting to do that stuff, and hopefully I'll be able to join one of the tours. But I guess it's a good problem to have. Yeah,
you just mentioned the Tony Hawk band. So this band is called Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of a Tony Hawk Pro Skater Cover Band. That is the actual name of the band.
That is the full name,
right.
Shortened to Birdman.
Okay,
and sometimes Birdman THPS. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. So me being a skater back in the 80s,
nice.
So I came through that very early Bones Brigade era.
Yep, nice.
I used to have Tony Hawk skateboards. I was the first to have the Tony Hawk Mini skateboard in my hometown.
Yeah,
right?
Cool.
Got to meet the Bones Brigade once.
Yep.
We they had a demo on and was a town over in Wellington. So we jumped in a van with my mate's dad and he drove us over there. But it was raining, but we got to meet them.
Awesome, man.
And they signed our shit. So anyway, tell us about the band. I don't want to look at my notes and have to read it all out again. But
it's a big name.
THPS.
Yeah, so that literally started as a joke.
Yep.
So the idea was the name came first.
Okay.
because it was just after the movie Birdman and the Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance or something like that. So it was that I don't know if you ever saw that. It was the movie that Antonio Sanchez, he did the soundtrack to, and it's just him improvising drums over it. It's a really cool soundtrack. So they kind of just put that together with Tony Hawk, and they're like, oh, we should do a Tony Hawk cover band where we only play the songs from the soundtrack. And they were just talking about it. So it was Josh and Sim who came up with this. Josh plays guitar.
And this is only play songs from the Tony Hawk games.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
The soundtrack from the games.
From the games. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Specifically from the first 4 games.
Okay.
If we're getting very
specific.
And they were just talking about it. They were working together at the time. I don't know if it was at Channel V or something like that, but they were just talking about it and joking around. And then, and I think they told a few people about just the idea of it. And anyway, the organizers from Secret Garden Festival, they knew him or something like that, and he just hit them up. It was like, hey, do you want to come and headline some stage with that Tony Hawk band that you've been talking about? And they were like, yeah, okay. And then they went, oh shit, now we need to put a band together and actually see this through. So we just got together with some friends and they sorted it all out, and they curated the playlist. And anyway, we went and did that, and it was a hit. Like no one had any idea what to expect. We didn't have any idea what to expect either. But we played this kind of one of the stages at the festival, and it was like 300 kids there or something like that. There was like a lot of people there, and they were all going crazy and just loving hearing all these songs that they probably hadn't heard in 15, 20 years or something like that. So that was 2017, I want to say. And then, a few other kind of crazy things happened. Like we got booked for Vivid, and we played at the King's Cross Hotel. And we got booked to do 2 sets. So we're doing a whole night there, and we had all these games and stuff, had letters up around the skate up around the venue, and you could win prizes and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, we played 3.5 songs and we got kicked off because of a noise complaint.
Okay.
In the middle of King's Cross on a Wednesday night at 9:00.
Shit's starting to change, eh?
Yeah. So that was at the height of Keep Sydney Open, and so the lockout, all that stuff had come into effect, and it was just like this was part of Vivid Festival, which is meant to be, bringing the arts to Sydney and all that sort of stuff. So it was just this kind of, it was really bizarre. And anyway, so because some of the guys work in television, they were able to kind of get a thing in the project the next day. So on the project, so Sim went on the project and had a chat to them about the whole thing, and it kind of blew up a little bit. And so band got a bit of kind of recognition from that, and Tony Hawk actually ended up seeing some of the stuff, like some of the videos, and he eventually followed us on Twitter or something like that. And I was like, okay, well, if Tony Hawk follows us on Twitter, that's the peak of the band. That's kind of, it doesn't get much better than that. Like, that's kind of ridiculous and surreal. But a couple of weeks later, this is in 2019, beginning of 2019, he sent us a DM or an email, something, and was like, hey, what do you guys reckon about coming over to the US to do this gig that I'm putting on, because it's the 20th anniversary of the first game coming out on PlayStation. And we're like, yeah, of course we're going to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, Tony Hawk just asked us to do a gig, what the hell? And so the original idea was to book every single one of the bands on the soundtrack to come and play one song and then get off, and then
massive.
Yeah. And then he was just like, that's a logistical nightmare and expensive.
Yeah.
hey, here's this dumb band from Australia that I've seen. Let's get them over to come and play all the songs.
All the songs,
yeah. And Bad Religion, they played a full set, so they headlined, and so it was a charity event. So he flew us over there, and he hung out with us. Like he came to a rehearsal and met us, and he ended up singing a song with us. We went to his like headquarters, like he's, and he's got a giant skate ramp in there, and he's put on a bit of a demo for us.
Yeah, I've seen the short video of you guys are all sitting over the coping, and he
jumps over us. He just goes, "Hey, how about I jump all over you guys?" And I was like, "What the hell? Yeah, sure, man." And he did that first go.
You're on the end.
I was on the end.
He misjudged it.
Yeah. I had faith. I had faith.
Yeah. If there's one guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's the greatest. So I was like, but he couldn't have been a nicer guy as well. Like super hospitable, still very aware of who he is, and knew that, he means something to people in a certain sense. Like that, the video that you've seen of him skating over us, he went away for a little bit and signed that board and gave it to us to take home. It's like, he doesn't need to do that, but that's just the type of guy that he is. And it's kind of, we just did some gigs over the weekend for the first time in a while. So it's a lot of fun. It's just I really like it because it's music that I grew up with. That I don't have to think about at all. So it's like that music is burnt into my brain.
Gotcha.
So I literally don't have to be in here to practice any of it. It's just, like I said, it's burnt into my brain. It's low commitment. Just bring in some energy and have fun. So it's good fun doing that band, as silly as it is. But we were meant to do some other things with him. Like he was going to come out and we're going to do some gigs and he was going to do like a talking event. But then COVID happened, so that kind of nixed that, as you would expect. But yeah, bit of fun. Yeah,
man. All right, let's talk about Plini now. How that came about.
So that came about. So my friend Simon Grove, who I was talking about, just briefly, who hooked me up with that teaching gig. He was playing bass. He's Plini's bass player.
Okay.
So again, we've gone back. I've known him now for maybe 15 years or maybe a bit longer, and we'd done some gigs around town and stuff like that, in original stuff and just in like function stuff as well. I met Plini through him. I had no idea who he was. I saw one day Simon promoted this EP that he just played bass on, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's this playing on The End of Everything by Plini, and it's got Marco Miniman on drums." And I just went, "What the hell? Like Simo's playing with Marco Miniman? What the hell? This is unreal." So I got to check this out. So I listened to it and I was like, "Oh man, this is really sick." And who the hell is Plini? What the hell is this? I found out it's like, it's just this kid from Bondi who's just real sick at guitar and can write some cool tunes. And Simo, okay, wow, that's kind of crazy. And anyway, so they started doing live shows not long after that EP came out. So I went and checked it out and saw them with Heavy Metal Ninjas, the same gig you were at. And I just met him kind of just through being at the gigs and knowing Simo, and had some kind of fleeting conversations with him, nothing too serious. And in 2016, they were basically away all year. They did 2 US tours and a European tour. Yeah, playing with Animals as leaders and bands like Intervals and stuff like that as well. So I was just like, oh man, I was so stoked for Simo to get to do that. Like this guy I kind of, I've known for so long now, and so unreal that he's doing all that stuff. So, and then the trio that I play in instrumental with Simon and my other buddy Simon, we were doing a gig in Sydney somewhere, and Plini came to it, and we were just chatting, and he just started asking me some questions. He was like, "Oh, hey man, do you play double kick?" Because backstory, in instrumental, I don't play double kick. It's all single stuff.
Yep.
And I was like, oh yeah, man, yeah, I do. But I just don't do it in this project or whatever. And he's like, interesting. And then I was kind of like, oh, that's a weird question. Whatever, dude. See, I'm going to go play my gig. And then cut to a few months later, he sends me a message. Hey, man, looks like Troy's not going to be able to do some gigs. Will you be down to step in, like just to fill in? And I was like, fuck yeah, absolutely. The problem was, though, I was in Spain on a holiday. Me and my partner, Amy, we went to Europe for 3 months, and it was the second week of a 3-month vacation with no drums. And it was maybe 3 weeks after I was due to get back. So I was like, oh shit, now I'm going to have to somehow learn all this music. Which I don't know anything about.
Back to the hands on the legs, right?
No, absolutely, man. Absolutely. It was right back to the beginning. And so I was like sitting on buses, like driving through Germany and Scandinavia and stuff like that, just listening to these tunes, writing out some basic cheat sheets and stuff like that. And anyway, so got back and did the gigs. And the first gig was awful. Second gig was a lot better. Probably still not great, but it was better. And I was kind of like, after the first gig, I was like, I burnt that bridge. That's
that bad, eh?
Look, in my mind, it's that bad.
Okay.
There was just a few kind of like train wrecky kind of moments. But so in my mind, it's the worst gig I've ever played. But it was probably like okay for the bits that I didn't completely botch.
Gotcha.
But it was probably like a few people would have noticed. Probably everyone noticed. Anyway, but I was just like, oh, that's done and whatever. So I made sure that the next night I nailed everything a bit better and we had heaps of fun on that gig. Like I remember, having heaps of fun because I was just like, oh, well, this is the last time I'm going to get to do this. And anyway, a week or two later, I was about to go to Japan with Seims, and I got an email from Plini saying, hey, man, what are you up to next year? I'm doing this. And it was basically the whole year was mapped out. And I was like, whoa, right. Holy shit. And it was like, do you want to do it? And I was like, look, yeah, I'm going to have to talk to Amy about this, and if she's cool with it, like I'm 100% down to do it. And Amy was just like, yeah, you have to do this. Like, and that was the beginning of that. So that first year, I went to my third gig with Plini was in India, of all places. It was one of those things where it's like, I never thought I'd go to India. Let alone get paid to go there to play music. That's so kind of weird. So we went to India and Nepal. So I think we were, 2 weeks there. Then I got back and we recorded some stuff. And then we were in the US for 7 weeks, had a month off, went to Europe for a month, had a month off, went back to Europe, had a month off, toured Australia, had a month off, went back to Europe for 6 weeks or something like that. So it was a hectic year. Yeah. Hectic first year and that was a big learning experience. Just into how that side of touring works. Like I'd done some tours of Australia. It's a different vibe when at least for me it was anyway.
So in what way specifically?
Well,
how everything's mapped out and schedule and
well, and it's just the length of it as well. Like,
the length, okay.
Like touring Australia, like if you're doing capital cities, it's 5 days, versus 7 weeks or whatever it was. Like that's just the mindset that you need to have to get through that. I didn't have that at all. Like it was so that was a big learning experience of just trying to figure out how to mentally get through it. The playing was kind of fine. Like there wasn't any physical issues, but there are road chops is the thing. So, you got to build that up and just the little things that you don't ever think about. Like all the touring I'd done prior to that, it was a different kit every night.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter how I set it up because it wasn't always with the same front of house guy.
Right.
We had the same front of house guy. And he was like, nah, man, you need to set that shit up the same every night. And I was like, why, man? I don't give, like, it doesn't bother me. He goes, it bothers me.
Yeah.
It helps me get a more consistent show if you're setting the same. And I was like, okay,
Gotcha.
sure. Right. Okay. So, I'm very vigilant about that sort of stuff now, but that was not something I ever thought about, at all, prior to that. So just things like that, and just making sure you're there for your load in and your sound check, and you're not, things like, finishing on stage and then just standing there and talking to people, like you've probably seen people do that. And it's just like, no, man, get off the stage. Like, this is not your time. Your stage time is over. Get off.
Yep.
Because, that the first US tour was a support tour. So
Yeah.
we were direct support for British band Tesseract. So it was like, yeah, okay, right.
You
Just-
go on, grab your gear.
Yeah,
get off.
get off and pack it away straight away, all that sort of stuff. Like, so it was a big learning experience, and just figuring out how all that kind of stuff worked, and was a big learning experience, at least for me. Like, was not necessarily that it was a big learning experience, but I just think that that type of stuff differentiates just playing locally versus doing that type of stuff. That's like one thing that I've noticed, like, because you see, like, over the weekend we did gigs and there was support bands in there having chats after they finished the gig, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, come on, man, like, what the hell? Like, get the hell off the stage.
Gotcha.
I'm not getting angry at them, but in my mind I'm just going, come on, man, I got to set up my shit too.
Yeah.
So it's just, little things like that you can only probably learn by doing it, rather than you're not going to learn that at music school, or that's like the least sexy Instagram lesson you could probably ever talk about is something like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not getting many clicks for you or anything like that. But in all honesty, that's being on top of stuff like that is going to keep you employed, and it was just little things like that you just would never think about necessarily until you're in there and you kind of realize, oh, okay, yeah, this isn't, there's a lot of people, working in the same, to get to the same thing, like all the crew, et cetera, we've all got one thing to do, and that's make this show happen. So let's work with everyone and not be a dick and all that sort of stuff. So, so it was a big learning experience, and just, it was also like, it was interesting, particularly that first year, because no one knew who I was. Like, I was an unknown, and I still am realistically like an unknown entity compared to the drummers that had previously played for Plini. So Marco Miniman, like, I knew about him when I was 17 years old.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then Troy he's like a very, very popular drummer. Like, obviously he's got a big thing going on YouTube, and had been playing for Plini for a couple of years by that stage. So he'd established himself as, like, the amazing drummer that he is. And then it's like, who the fuck is this guy coming up next? So it was just like kind of figuring out the mental side of entering that as well. That was a big thing, because it's all of a sudden a lot of people don't like you, and that's new. That's news to that's a new sensation. You know what I mean? Not that I was, not that I'm saying I was super popular or anything, but it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, these people are not happy with me at all, because they want Troy back.
Wow.
Okay, well, don't know what to tell you. Like, he's doing other things at the moment, so you're kind of stuck with me. But it was just one of those things where, like, you read one comment, and I did this once, and I haven't done it since. Basically, I read some comments and I got really bummed out.
Yeah.
Because I was just getting ripped apart, more or less. And then I kind of just had this realization at one point where I was like, okay, these people aren't paying me. Let's talk to Plini and to the other guys, to Jake and Simon, and just have a chat to them and see what they think. And they were like, oh, look, we can all be better. We can all get this better. but no, it's all good. Like there's nothing to worry about. And it was just kind of like, okay, lesson there is ignore all the comments.
That's it.
Like don't read that shit. And like I said, I haven't done it since. And so I still might be getting ripped apart on there, and I'm blissfully unaware, and that's kind of fine because. But it was that lesson that, they're not paying the bills. Like he's paying me to be there. If he wasn't happy, he wouldn't hire me again. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I was like, okay, there's a big kind of lesson there, I guess, is to ignore everyone else and just worry about the important people, I guess, to put it kind of bluntly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the fans are very important, don't get me wrong, but keeping it, making sure his vision is being met. That is that's my job, is to make sure that he's getting everything he needs out of me.
Yeah, because you're the hired gun. You're not in the band. You're not not part of a band. It's not the Plini band. It's Plini and.
Correct, exactly right. Like he's very loyal to his band. So Simon's the only bass player that's more or less the only bass player that's ever played with him.
Yep.
And Jake has done the vast majority of his tours playing rhythm guitar. And he's only had 2 live drummers. More or less just had 2 live drummers. There's been, I think, some one-offs here and there, but it's been Troy for the first couple of years and then me ever since.
Yep.
So he wants to keep it like as kind of tight a unit as he possibly can, but it is his thing. Like he calls all the shots.
Full creative control.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So like any parts that are on the record, I may come up with them, but it has to go through him. You know what I mean? So if he doesn't like it, it's not going to be on the record. Gotcha. So if the part's on the record, he's cool with it.
Yep.
So it still has to all go through his filter. Right. So like I said, that is the priority to make sure that I'm helping him achieve what he wants to do, and hopefully overachieve, like over deliver if I can. You'd have to ask him if I'm doing that, but yeah, like that was the realization that should be the priority, and not worrying what people say online.
Yeah. Good stuff.
It was a good lesson to learn, that's for sure.
So next year you tour. So you've got a tour of Australia, New Zealand, Netherlands, Germany, Czech Republic, Poland. I'll come back to that one.
Okay.
Hungary, Italy, Switzerland, Portugal, Spain, France, UK, and then North America.
Yep.
Right. All before June.
Correct. Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So is there anything planned for the second half of the year, or you don't know yet?
I think there's loose talks of going to Asia.
Okay.
But nothing's set in stone there. But I'm not. I've just heard whispers of things, but nothing is set in stone. And like there is some new music to be released at some point.
Okay.
In there.
That you've recorded already?
I recorded drums for an EP for him at the end of last year.
Okay.
Like this time last year, and it hasn't really, nothing much has happened since then. So it's really great stuff. Like I'm really excited about it, but it just hasn't been the priority.
Yep.
But it will be soon enough.
Cool.
It may even be getting mixed now. I'm not exactly sure, but Simon will get to it at some point. Well, it's not really he'll get to it. Sorry, that's not the right thing. It's scheduled in to be got to
Gotcha.
pretty soon. So so that'll come out at some point next year, I would imagine. I'd hope. But again, really excited about that. Like I really, really love that material. And really proud of like the performances we captured for the drums and the sounds we captured were really great too. I think it'll be a step up sonically as well from the last one, which is always the goal, is to make sure it's getting better.
Well, I can't wait to hear that, because like I said, I've been listening to the last album, 2020 album, for the last little while, and it's awesome.
Oh, yeah, man, thank you.
Sonically brilliant. Like I said, every song's got these these little events, and if you've heard it enough times, you know they're coming, and I get excited for them.
Yeah, nice,
You
man.
know, the way you set
awesome.
stuff up, and it's great. And this is going, you know, what I was going to say there, multi-layered. The more times you hear it, you hear different things.
Yeah.
Going back to what you were saying about the sound guy wanting your gear to be just right, I was thinking a lot about this today. How, you know, obviously you'd need that dedicated front of house guy.
Mm-hmm.
How hard he would have to work in all these different venues to be able to capture, you know, the two guitars, the clarity of the drums, the bass, and there's track in there, is there?
Yeah, yep. And keys occasionally as well.
And to have all that in some sort of clarity in all these different rooms and theatres and stuff, I can understand why he would be really picky about, you know, I need that snare there to get the mic to that placement.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to work with that he needs to, you know, get done. There are certain things that do make his life a little bit easier, like the guitars. There's no cabs on stage.
Yeah.
So it's all that's literally, you know, not. I don't want to make it sound like it's too easy, but it's like you turn it up and all the sounds are there. But yeah, like he is like, oh man, your snare drum's moved. You know, between gigs, he's like he notices that stuff because the mic is not exactly in the same angle. So it's like, he is rightfully kind of pedantic about that kind of stuff. Like his name is Ronnie. He's an unbelievable sound engineer. He works for Periphery and Animals as Leaders and Tesseract and Stray from the Path and a bunch of other you know, really great artists. And then he's been Plini's long-term sound guy.
Okay. So having played with all those guys as well, you can understand he'd have it down.
Oh man, yeah, like
especially this type of music.
Yeah, like when you're working with, like, you know, someone like Matt Gasker from Animals as Leaders, like he's pretty particular about a lot of things, and he would be, I imagine, like he would be at Ronnie, like making sure that all the little things that he's doing are crystal clear out front of house and things like that. And for someone like Ronnie, he would know exactly how to do that at the drop of a hat. Like he's like no word of a lie. Like he is one of the best sound guys, particularly in this style of music. Like there's probably no one better. Okay. That's kind of doing it. Not that I'm aware of, anyway. And we have a really great working relationship, and he's really phenomenal, and it's just things like he's constantly getting better as well, but the main thing is he just gives a shit. Like
gives a shit.
That's
a big one, eh?
Yeah, and that's, you know, it's not just another gig. It's like, no, he wants to knock it out of the park every night too, and like he wants it to get better. So, you know, that's what you want. You know, we always want to strive to keep getting better, and we're very lucky to that we've been able to hold on to him, you know, and that he really enjoys the music and really loves, you know, we all get along super well, like I said before. There's, you know, I've been more or less playing with Plini now for 4 and a bit years, and there's been no arguments ever between anyone.
That's good, eh?
Which is pretty remarkable, and yeah, we get along really, really well, and it's like it's a great team, and you know, just really feel really lucky to be a part of it, and to have a bunch of guys that are kind of on the same wavelength, you know, like that's particularly when you're in each other's back pocket for weeks on end, you know, that definitely helps, the fact that you know that there's going to be little to no tension at all between yous, and you can get along and have a laugh. And, you know, our kind of attitude towards it is just kind of unspoken, but it's just like, take what you do really seriously, but don't take yourself seriously.
That's it, eh?
Yeah, and that if there's any advice I can give anyone, that's the best bit of advice I can give you, because yeah, we're not precious about anything. Like we're always having a laugh and just joking around, and but you know, come stage time, it's like we'll joke around on stage, but it's like, you know,
you're on.
Yeah, we've got our shit together. And and we're there to put on a good show, but we also want to make sure we're having fun because, you know, we've all seen the bands that take everything too seriously, and it just becomes like it's not fun to be around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, man, this should be fun. Again, to go back to that thing, like we play music because it's fun.
That's it.
So let's have fun. Yeah, it's pretty important.
When I was rattling off the countries, and I said Poland, and I said I'd come back to that.
Yes.
You know, with the ongoing tensions with Ukraine and Russia, and Poland's fairly close. Right?
Yes.
So my anxiety speaks out to me. You know, I haven't travelled, and you know, I've got a bit of anxiety towards that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I know if like just reading that myself, I got a little bit of a flutter.
Okay,
right?
sorry about that.
No. But I'll be here. Don't worry about that.
Right, okay.
No,
good,
but
good.
So I'm just saying from your side of it and as a band's side of it, you know, how do you know, do you discuss those kind of locations, not getting into too much of the politics of it and the danger and...
No. We were actually meant to go to Russia this year.
Okay.
But obviously that got that fell apart pretty quickly, like and as it, you know, should have. But no, like it's not discussed, to be honest. Like it's just like this. Here's the dates.
Yeah.
Maybe if one of us had a particular issue with it, it would be discussed. But I think we would also trust that everything's being done above board. You know, like it's not. It'll be. We will be safe.
Yeah.
We're touring with a Polish band.
Okay.
So Jakub Zatecki is the direct support for that tour and his trio, and they're an unbelievable band. And we've done some shows with them before. And Jakub's played rhythm guitar for Plini on a tour or two as well. So like, yeah, it'll be. Yeah. We're pretty confident it'll be safe. And you know, where are we coming from before Poland? Hungary, was that right?
Czech Republic.
Czech Republic. Okay. So it'll all be routed in a way that'll be. Yeah. Excuse me. I assume as safe as possible. But that is a great question. Maybe I should.
Well, I feel better now.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. But no, it should be fine. Like unless, you know, obviously that's what 3 or 4 months away. Yeah. Anything can happen in 3 or 4 months. Like at the start of the year, I thought I was going to Russia this year, and then in a day that quickly did not happen. You know what I mean? So, so you know. It remains to be seen, but at this stage, like I'm not worried about that.
Maybe that was a bit of a strange question, and I'll listen back and see if I'll keep that in there. But I think that was maybe more for me.
No, but I think that's fair enough because, you know, like I do think it's a fair enough question, and it's honestly just not something that it's not that I hadn't thought about it, but it's not, I guess I'm just not concerned about it.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I can only speak for myself. Gotcha. You know, other people in the touring party may have concerns that just haven't been voiced. Mm-hmm. But that I think it's a legitimate and fair enough question.
Cool.
But I think we only got one date there, so it'll be in and out. So maybe it'll be even quicker now. But yeah.
One thing I saw online today, you joined something called Quan.
Yeah, Quan.
Yeah. Right. So that's it's like an online teaching.
Yeah, so it's a thing that Plini helped develop with Matt Halpern from Periphery. Mm-hmm. So they were just having a conversation one day about kind of bridging the gap between like Instagram Q&As and then a one-on-one lesson. Yep. So like if some people might have like a question that they don't want to go into a whole lesson and pay for the full hour of someone's time or something to ask a 3-minute, a question that's 3 minutes, has a 3-minute answer, but, you know, maybe would just get ignored for a free Instagram thing, you know what I mean? So like maybe this can be a way that we can bridge the gap between those two things and just give the kind of fan an opportunity to ask, you know, this person that they look up to a question whilst ensuring they'll get an answer. Yeah.
But still there being value.
But still looking after the artist's time and kind of their knowledge base, or however you want to kind of think about IP, whatever.
I think it's great.
Yeah, it's in its infancy still. Like I think they launched a little while ago, but they've I think they're just rejigging a few things to just from feedback and things like that. But I think it's got a lot of legs to it. Like I think the idea is a great one. I think it just, the more that the word kind of gets out about it, the more people will start to check it out. But I think I think it does a great job of bridging that gap. Because like you set the price of like, if as an artist on there, I would set the price for like, what 5 minutes of my time is to kind of get an answer or whatever. And I can go beyond that if I want, like, but the price is kind of set at that, and you can have back and forth. So if there's follow-up questions, you can ask that for no charge. So I think it's a neat little thing. And
I think it is too.
Yeah. And it's again, if I were to think back to being a younger musician, and if I could have messaged Portnoy and asked him a question about, hey man, what the hell's going on in this one bar of the Dance of Eternity? Man, I would have done that for $10, you know what I mean? Or whatever. Yeah. But, I didn't have that at the time. So it's like, I think, the access that people do have to, fans do have to their favorite artists is obviously that's shrunk a lot over the last few years because of social media and whatnot. Yeah. But this just ensures that everyone's kind of getting looked after, and you can have a direct contact with them and ensure you get an answer rather than, maybe a DM getting left in the
other folder.
Yeah, exactly, or anything like that. So I think there's definitely some legs to it, but no, I was when Plini approached me to check it out and kind of review it and whatnot. I was like, yeah, man, it's a great concept. Like I said, it is still early days, so hopefully it'll take off a little bit more in the new year and more people will check it out, because I think it is a valuable tool for everyone involved. Yeah,
very good.
Yeah.
What about your own music? Does Chris Allison write songs?
Yes and no. I really leave all my original ideas to the band instrumental the trio that I was talking about. That's as close as you'd probably ever get to Chris Allison solo music. I've toyed with the idea of trying to write songs, but I lack the ability to connect ideas from a compositional standpoint. I can write some like ideas and I go, that's kind of cool. And it's like, well, I don't know where to go next.
Just loop that idea.
Yeah, what am I going to play this for 4 minutes? Yeah. It's like, no, I don't think I can do that. I at this point, I don't have that. I lack that ability. I think I like the idea of doing it. Yeah. So I'm not going to say I'll never do it, but at this point, it's instrumental kind of is that, and even that music takes forever to write. I don't know if you've heard any of that, but it's like
I did hear a bit of it. Yeah.
It's over the top, like intense, like really. It's not for everyone by any stretch of the imagination, and that's kind of the point. Yeah. But it takes so long to write that stuff, and because it's not a full-time band, obviously, like we don't make any money off of it. So it's like, okay, life needs to come first. But we've started writing again recently, which has been great, and we had our first gig in ages, like at the start of the month, which was super fun to do again. So hopefully we'll have some new stuff soon enough, but that like I said, that at this point, that's probably the closest you'll get. But, with that being said, I do feel like I do get a lot of my creative output through Plini's music and through playing with Seims in Seims as well. Like I'd have to say that is my creative voice. Gotcha. Like that is my artistic voice on those things. on those records. So even though it's someone else's music, I still feel like that is me. It's not. I don't feel like I'm a reined-in version of myself,
Gotcha.
or I'm almost never told exactly what to play. Like, you need to play this exact thing here. Like, so I really do feel like I have a lot of my artistic voice gets let out through like some of those session work that I do with those guys, and so like I do feel lucky in that instance as well. Like they essentially pay for to have my artistic voice be part of their voice in a way. So that's pretty awesome, and again, very lucky to get to do that, and kind of have that outlet as well. So I guess that also plays into why like I don't feel the urge to necessarily just write music for myself. It's because I do get to
do it anyway.
Have my say anyway.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very good. All right, Chris, I wish you all the best for your tour next year, and
thank you.
And have a good first Christmas with your little one.
Yeah, man, very much looking forward to it. He's not going to remember it, but that's that's totally fine.
You will though.
He'll remember it through photos, and exactly we definitely will. We're looking forward to it. But thank you so much, and Merry Christmas to you too, man.
And when does the tour prep start to kick in?
Personally, it's slowly begun, but we don't do rehearsals till mid-Jan, I think.
Okay.
We don't, it's not extensive rehearsals. A lot of it is in here.
This stuff.
Yeah, so it's just get together. We'll get together twice. So we'll have one rehearsal with just the band, and then do a production rehearsal, and that'll be it. And that'll probably be it for the year, to be honest. Like unless we do one before Europe and before the US as well, but we may not. Remains to be seen. But yeah, everything will kick off in earnest next year.
Cool, man. Yeah. Hope to get to the Sydney gig.
Yeah, man. Well, let us know. Let us know if you want to come along.
Yep, we'll do.
Yeah.
Cool, Chris. Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot, Stevie. Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, cheers, bud.